Okay. This presentation is on resource-based learning, and you can see the authorship of the chapter, Lisa Campbell, Paula Flagiole, Shan Griffin, and Catherine Wojcik. And I'm presenting this. I'm Michael Orey. All right, let's start with the definition taken right from the text. It's an educational model to actively engage students with a multiplicity of resources, both print and non-print. So taking as an example, if you had to do a unit on Japan, seems like I use this example a lot. If you had to do a unit on Japan, you'd find videos, film strips, CD-ROMs, CDs, MP3s, web pages, books, newspapers, audio tapes, a variety of resources to help teach the unit. And so this could be instructivist as you gathering all these materials to be more teacher-centric in it, or it could be constructivist, it's more like project-based learning, tying it with project-based learning so that these resources are made available to the students as they try to complete their project. And it's the PBL that's really been the fact that we're moving more to an inquiry-based approach in the schools and in other educational settings that resource-based learning has become more popular. Even in the corporate classroom or higher education, the idea of resource-based learning has expanded, and one way of thinking about resource-based learning is blended learning. I teach a class at 6150 that's called an Introduction to Computers for Teachers class, and in that class, when I teach a specific topic, let's say I'm teaching Microsoft Excel, I tell them they should have, if they want to learn from a book, they should buy a book like Teach Yourself Visually. You see a screen capture of or the cover of that book in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. And so for this activity you're going to do Excel, you could read the book and do the walkthrough on the book. Or we have tutorials available for all students, so they could do an online tutorial. Or what happens is I give them a rubric and a detailed explanation of the assignment. They can just jump right into Excel and use the help function right within Excel to help them do things that they need to do. So you're basically gathering a collection of resources, and the student decides what they want to do to actually learn that particular piece of content. And so for one assignment where they already have a level of competence, they might just jump right into the tool and use help when they need help. And for other assignments, they might prefer to have a book or a web-based tutorial, and it's up to them. But you're basically providing those resources to them, and they're figuring out how to do that. And that's a really popular model, blended learning for online learning. Okay, in the chapter they described a 9-step model for doing this. It's very much like most instructional design models. You begin with goals to figure out what it is that you're going to try to teach. You figure out what it is that students are going to engage in. This is really more the project-based, integrating resource-based learning with project-based learning. But you figure out what it is the kids are going to create, students are going to create: PowerPoint presentations, dramatic readings, videos, debates, postcards, reports, diaries, whatever. Whatever it is they're going to produce. And it really is kind of nice to coordinate with a librarian or a media specialist to figure out how you're going to go about the design of that learning activity, if you have one at your disposal. So, so select resources in a variety of formats. That's what I think is really cool about resource-based learning. So you can use textbooks, you can use film, you can use video, you can use web materials, whatever helps you cover the content. Create a timeline for implementation of the unit so that everybody's clear about when those resources are going to be needed and how to go about developing the plan. Schedule the media center, computer lab, guest speakers, and field trips if applicable. Field trips, that's another really nice resource. Create rubrics used to evaluate student artifacts, evaluate the student products, and then collaboratively evaluate the effectiveness of the unit. And that's sort of the nice little model for going through the resource-based learning experience. Particularly focused on schools, but obviously you can do the same thing outside of the context of schools. All right, so let's talk about resource-based learning and other theories we talk about. Project-based learning and problem-based learning are the two inquiry models that I focus on in this class. So they're the two models that kind of drive it. The other theories help kind of support it. And so we talked about the 6 C's of learning, for example. And so we talk about collaborative learning, we talk about multiple intelligence, we talk about all these different theories. Each one of them gives a different perspective on how you can implement something like project-based learning or problem-based learning. And so resource-based learning is providing yet another lens, and it's much more focused on the gathering and providing resources than some of the other theories. So the 6 C's focused on how to foster motivation. This one's more about the things that you gather for the resources. Okay. In the end, I think you really need to weave multiple theories together, because I think each of the lenses gives you more and more ideas for what you could do. My last little point out there, again, in this idea of weaving theories is in a web quest, when you take them through the process of solving whatever problem or working on whatever project they're working on, all the resources typically are web-based resources. But really, if you think about it from a resource-based learning perspective, there's no reason that those resources have to be web-based. I mean, the nice thing about having them all web-based is somebody else can use it. But I don't think any of us are really in the business of creating things so that everybody else can use it. I think it's great if they can, but if they can't, I don't have a problem with that either. So you could have in your process that you should look at this book, you should listen to the CD, you should, and gather these, point to these other resources that you make available in your classroom as they're going through the web quest. Okay, so it really kind of expands out on what you could do with a web quest. Benefits of resource-based learning. It's motivating. It really encourages information literacy, because information is provided in lots of different formats. And because of the more inquiry-based approach, they learn how to learn, they learn problem-solving skills, and really the learning styles are multiple intelligences, because with project-based learning, you can do things in multiple formats. You can kind of match the project to your own abilities and interests. Some of the challenges with resource-based learning, well, it puts a greater burden, if you're going to do this in a school, on the school library media specialist. More project and rubric oriented than standard assessment models, which some teachers may feel uncomfortable with. Dynamic resources like web pages, I mean, if that's part of your resource list, those change all the time, and so requiring constant updating. Inquiry models are most often employed with gifted and high SES students, but not at-risk types, although why, I don't know. All students could benefit from this approach. And you need administrative support for inquiry-based learning, and that's absolutely true. Okay? Just a quick summary. Resource-based learning and project and problem-based learning go together nicely. Again, regardless of if you're doing a problem-based approach or a project-based approach, thinking about the resources that you're going to do, gathering the resources, thinking broadly about the resources that you bring to bear on those projects or problems is a really good thing. And again, this is another theory that is focused on what you can do to structure your learning environment. This is it's a model primarily for student-centered learning, but it really is a model that talks about the things that you do to help structure your learning environment, you as the designer of the instruction. Okay? So there's a brief summary of the chapter. I encourage you to read the chapter, because I just gloss over it in these presentations, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.